Iliad. Translation by George Chapman. Book 1. The Arcade. Apollo's priest to the Argive fleet doth bring gifts for his daughter, prisoner to the king, for which her tendered freedom he entreats, but being dismissed with contumelious threats, at Phoebus' hands by vengeful prayer he seeks to have a plague inflicted on the Greeks, which had Achilles doth a council cite, emboldening Chalcas in the king's despite, to tell the truth why they were punished so, from hence their fierce and deadly strife did grow. For wrong in which I.C.A the soul raves, that goddess Thetis from her throne of waves, ascending heaven of Jove assistance won, to plague the Greeks by absence of her son, and make the general himself repent, to wrong so much his army's ornament. This found by Juno, she with Jove contends, till Vulcan with heaven's cup the quarrel ends. Another argument. Alpha, the prayer of crisis, sings, the army's plague, the strife of kings. Book 1. Achilles' baneful wrath, resound, O goddess, that imposed infinite sorrows on the Greeks, and many brave souls loosed from the breasts heroic, sent them far to that invisible cave, that no light comforts, and our limbs to dogs and vultures gave, to all which Jove's will gave effect, from whom first strife begun, betwixt Atrides, king of men, Thetis godlike son. What god gave Eris their command, and opt that fighting vain? Jove's Latonus son, who fared against the king of men, for contumely shown his priest infectious sickness sent, to plague the army, and to death by troops the soldiers went. Occasioned thus, Chryses the priest came to the fleet to buy, for presents of unvalued price, his daughter's liberty, the golden sceptre and the crown of Phoebus in his hands, proposing and made suit to all, but most to the commands. And both the Atrides, who most ruled, great Atreus' sons, said he, and all ye well-grieved Greeks, the gods whose habitations be in heavenly houses, grace your powers with Priam's raised town, and grant ye happy conduct home, to win which wished renown of Jove by honouring his son, far-shooting Phoebus. Deign for these fit presents to dissolve the ransomable chain of my loved daughter's servitude. The Greeks entirely gave glad acclamations, for sign that their desires would have the grave priest reverenced, and his gifts of so much price embraced. The general yet bore no such mind, but viciously disgraced with violent terms the priest, and said, Daughter, devoid our fleet, for lingering may not found by me, nor thy returning feet, let ever visit us again, lest nor thy godhead's crown nor sceptre save thee. Her thou seekest, I still will hold mine own, till age deflower her in our court at Argos, for transferred from her loved country she shall ply her web, and see prepared with all fit ornaments my bed. Incense me then no more, but if thou wilt be safe begone. This said, the sea beat shore, obeying his high will, the priest trod off with haste and fear, and walking silent, till he left far off his enemy's ear. Phoebus, fair-haired Latonus' son, he stirred up with a vow, to this stern purpose, hear thy god, that bear'st the silver bow, that Chrysaegard rules Tenedos with strong hand, and around of Scylla most divine dost walk. O Smintheus, O, if crowned with thankful offerings, thy rich fane I ever saw or fared, fat thighs of oxen and of goats to thee, this grace desired, vouchsafe to me pains for my tears, that these rude Greeks repay, forced with thy arrows. Thus he prayed, and Phoebus heard him pray. And vexed at heart down from the tops of steep heaven stooped, his bow and quiver covered round, his hands did on his shoulders throw, and of the angry deity the arrows as he moved rattled about him. Like the night he ranged the host and roved to part the fleet set terribly, with his hard loosing hand. His silver bow twanged, and his shafts did first the mules command, and swift hounds than the Greeks themselves his deadly arrow shot. The fires of death went never out, 9 days his shafts flew hot. About the army, and the 10th, Achilles called a court. Of all the Greeks, heaven's white-armed queen, who everywhere cut short, beholding her loved Greeks by death, suggested it, and he, all met in one, arose and said, Atrides, now I see, we must be wandering again, flight must be still our stay, if flight can save us now. At once sickness and battle lay such strong hand on us. Let us ask some prophet, priest, or prove, some dream interpreter, for dreams are often sent from Jove. Why Phoebus is so much incensed, if unperformed vows he blames in us or hecatombs, and if these knees he bows, to death may yield his graves no more, but offering all supply of savours burnt from lambs and goats, avert his fervent eye, and turn his temperate fussy Satan, and then stood up to them. Chalcas, surnamed Festerides, of Augurs the supreme, he knew things present, past, to come, and ruled the equipage of the Argive fleet to Ilion, or his prophetic rage given by Apollo, who, well seen in the ill he felt, proposed this to Achilles. Jove's beloved, would I charge thee disclose the secret of Apollo's wrath, then covenant and take oath to my discovery, that with words and powerful actions both, thy strength will guard the truth in me, because I well conceive that he whose empire governs all, whom all the Grecians give confirmed obedience, will be moved, and then you know the state of him that moves him. When a king hath once marked for his hate a man inferior, for that day his wrath seems to digest the offence he takes, yet evermore he rakes it up in his breast, brands of quick anger, till revenge have quenched his desire. The fire reserved, tell me, then, if whatsoever ire suggestion hurt of him, of me to him, thy valour will prevent. Achilles answered, all thou knowest speak, be confident, for by Apollo, Jove's beloved, to whom performing vows, O Chalcas, for the state of Greece, thy spirit prophetic shows, skills that direct us, not a man of all these Grecians here. I living, and enjoying the light shot through this flowery sphere, shall touch thee with offensive hands, though Agamemnon be the man in question, that doth boast the mightiest empery of all our army. And took heart the prophet unreproved, and said, they are not unpaid vows, nor hecatombs that moved the gods against us. His offence is for his priest impaired by Agamemnon, that refused the priest he preferred, and keep his daughter. This is cause why heaven's far darter darts these plagues amongst us, and this still lie empty in our hearts. His death will quiver uncontained till to her loved sire the black-eyed damsel be resigned no redemptory hire, took for her freedom not a gift, but all the ransom quit, and she conveyed with sacrifice till her enfranchised feet thread Crisa under. Then the god so pleased perhaps we may move to remission. Thus he sate, and up the great sway heroic Agamemnon rose eagerly, bearing all, his mind's seat overcast with fumes, and anger general filled all his faculties. His eyes sparkled like kindling fire, which stern they cast upon the priest. Thus vented he his ire, prophet of ill, for never could came from thee towards me, not to a word's worth. Evermore thou took'st delight to be offensive in thy auguries, which thou continuest still, now casting thy prophetic gall, and vouching all our ill, shot from Apolloism, imposed since I refused the price of fair Christ's liberty, which would in no worth rise to my rate of herself, which moves my vows to have her home, past Clytemnestra, loving her that graced my nuptial room, with her virginity and flower, nor asks her merits less, for person, disposition, wit, and skill in housewiferys, and yet for all this she shall go, if more conducible that course be than her holden here. I rather wish the weal of my loved army than the death. Provide yet instantly, supply for her, that I alone of all our royalty lose not my winnings. 'Tis not yet fit ye'll see I lose mine, forced by another. See as well, somever may resign his prize to me. To this replied the swift-foot godlike son of Thetis, king of us all in all ambition, most covetous of all that breathe. Why should the great-souled Greeks supply thy lost prize out of theirs? Nor what avarice seeks, our common treasury can find so little it doth guard. Of what our raised towns yielded us, of all which most is shared, and given our soldiers, which again to take into our hands were ignominious and base. Now then, since God commands, part with thy most loved prize to him, not any one of us exacts it of thee. Yet we all loss thou sufferest thus, will tremble quadruple in gain, when Jupiter bestows the sack of well-walled Troy on us, which by his word he owes. Do not deceive yourself with wit, he answered, godlike man, though your good name may colour it. It's not your swift foot can outrun me here, nor shall the gloss set on it with the god persuade me to my wrong. Wouldst thou maintain in sure abode thine own prize, and slight me of mine? Resolve this, if our friends, as fits in equity my worth, will right me with amends. So rest it otherwise, myself will enter personally on thy prize, that of Ithacus or Ajax, for supply. Let him on whom I enter rage, but come, we'll order these. Hereafter and in another place. Now put to sacred seas our black sail, and it roars, put in it fit sacrifice. And to these I will make ascend my so much envied prize, right cheeked Traces, for conduct of all which we must choose. A chief out of our counsellors, by surface we must use. Idomeneus, Ajax, Vine, or Vine, wise Ithacus, or Vine, thou terriblest of men, thou son of Peleus, which fittest were that thou mightest see these holy acts performed, for which thy cunning zeal so pleads, and he, whose bow thus stormed, for our offences may be calmed, Achilles with a frown thus answered, O thou impudent, of no good but thine own, ever respectful, but of that with all craft covetous. With what heart can a man attempt a service dangerous, or at thy voice be spirited to fly upon a foe? Thy mind thus wretched, for myself I was not injured so, by any Trojan, that my powers should bid them any blows. In nothing bear them blame of me, Phthia, whose bosom flows with corn, and people never felt impair of her increase by their invasion. Hills enow and far resounding seas pour out their shades and deeps between, but thee, frontless man, we follow, and thy triumphs made with bonfires of our bane. Fine, and thy brother's vengeance sought, thou dog's eyes in this Troy, fire-exposed lives, whose deserts thou neither dost employ with honour nor with care, and now thou threatest to force from me the fruit of my sweat which the Greeks gave all, and though it be compared with thy part, then snatched up, nothing nor ever is, at any sacked town but a fight the fetcher in of this. My hands have most share, in whose toils when I have emptied me of all my forces, my amends in liberality. Though it be little, I accept and turn pleased to my tent. And yet that little thou esteemest too great a continent, and yet incontinent avarice. For Pythia, for therefore now, my course is, since 'tis better far than here to endure that thou should still be ravishing my right, draw my whole treasure dry. And add dishonour, he replied, if thou heart serve thee, flee. Stay not for my cause, ever here will aid and honour me. If not, yet Jove I know is sure, that counsellor is he that I depend on. As for thee, of all our Jove-kept kings, thou still art most mine enemy. Strifes, battles, bloody things, make thy blood feast still. If strength, that these moods build upon, flow in thy nerves, God gave thee it, and so 'tis not thine own, but in his hand still. What then lifts thy pride in this so high? Home with thy fleet, and Myrmidons use their empery. Command not here, I weigh thee not, nor mean to magnify thy rough hue and rages, but instead I thus far threaten thee, since Phoebus needs will force from me, Chrysis she shall go, my ships and friends shall waft her home, but I will imitate so his pleasure that mine own shall take in person from thy tent bright-cheeked Braces, and so tell thy strength how eminent my power is, being compared with thine. All ever making fear to vaunt equality with me, or in this proud kind bear their beards against me. Thetis' son at this stood vexed, his heart bristled his bosom, and two ways drew his discursive part. If from his thigh his sharp sword drawn, he should make room about Atrides' person, slaughtering him, or sit his anger out, and curb his spirit, while these thoughts strafed in his blood and mind, and he his sword drew, down from heaven Athena stooped and shined about his temples, being sent the ivory-wristed queen, Saturnia, who out of her heart had ever loving been. And careful for the good of both, she stood behind and took Achilles by the yellow curls, and only gave her look to him appearance not a man of all the rest could see. He turning back his eye, amazed strook every faculty, yet straight he knew her by her eyes, so terrible they were, sparkling with ardour, and thus spake, thou seed of Jupiter, why comest thou to behold his pride that boasts our empery? Then witness with it my revenge, and see that insolence die that lives to wrong me. She replied, I come from heaven to see thine anger settled. If thy soul will use her sovereignty in fit reflection, I am sent from Juno, whose effects stand heartily inclined to both. Come, give us both respects, and cease contention. Draw no sword, use words, and such as may be bitter to his pride, but just for trust in what I say. A time shall come, when thrice the worth of that he forceth now, he shall propose for recompense of these wrongs. Therefore throw reins on thy passions, and serve us. He answered, though my heart burn in just anger, yet my soul must conquer the angry part, and yield you conquest, who subdues his earthy part for heaven. Heaven to his prayers subdues his wish. This said, her charge was given fit honour. In his silver hilt he held his able hand, and forced his broadsword up, and up to the heaven did reascend. Minerva, who in Jove's high roof that bears the rough shield took her place with our deities. She gone again forsook patience with passion, and no more his silence could confine. His wrath that this broad language gave, thou ever steeped in wine, dogs faced with heart but of a heart, but nor in the open eye of fight darts thrust into a press, nor with our noblest lie in secret ambush. These works seems too full of death for thee, to safer far in the open host to dare an injury to any crosser of thy lust. Thou subject Ethan king, base spirits thou govern'st, or this wrong had been the last foul thing thou ever afford'st. Yet I vow, and by a great oath swear, even by this sceptre, that as this never again shall bear green leaves or branches, nor increase with any growth his size, nor did since first it left the hills and had his faculties and ornaments bereft with iron, which now to the other end judges of Greece bear and their laws received from Jove defend. For which my oath to thee is great, so whensoever need shall burn with thirst of me thy host, no prayers shall ever breed affection in me to their aid, though well-deserved woes afflict thee for them, when to death man-slaughtering Hector throws whole troops of them, and thou torment'st thy vexed mind with conceit of thy rude rage now, and his wrong that most deserved the right of all thy army. Thus he threw his sceptre gainst the ground, with golden studs stuck, and took seat. Atrida's breast was drowned in rising choler. Up to both sweet-spoken Nestor stood, the cunning Pylian orator, whose tongue poured forth a flood of more than honey-sweet discourse. 2 ages were increased of divers languaged men, all born in this time and deceased in sacred Pylos, where he reigned amongst the third-aged men. He well seen in the world, advised, and thus expressed it then: O gods, our Greek earth will be drowned in just tears. Grateful Troy, her king, and all his sons will make as just a mock and joy of these disjunctions, if of you that all our host excel in counsel and in skill of flight. They hear this come repel these young men's passions. Ye are not both, but put both your years in one, so old as I lived long since, and was companion with men superior to you both, who yet would ever hear my counsels with respect. Mine eyes yet never witness were, nor ever will be, of such men as then delighted them: Periphas, Exadius, and godlike Polyphem, Zenus and Dryas, prince of men, Aegean Theseus, a man like heaven's immortals formed, all most vigorous of all men that even those days bred, most vigorous men, and fought with beasts, and most vigorous mountain beasts. For men in strength were not matched with their forces, fought with them, and bravely fought them down. Yet even with these men I conversed, being called to the renown of their societies by their suits from Pylos far to fight in the Asian kingdom. And I fought to a degree of might that helped even their mights against such as no man now would dare to meet in conflict. Yet even these my counsels still would hear, and with obedience crown my words, give you such palm to them. 'Tis better than to wreath your wrath. Atrides, give not stream to all thy power, nor force his prize, but yield her still his own, as all men else do. Nor do thou encounter with thy crown, great son of Peleus, since no king that ever Jove allowed grace of a sceptre equals him. Suppose thy nerves endowed with strength superior, and thy birth a very goddess gave, yet he of force is mightier, since what his own nerves have is implied with just command of many other. King of men, command thou then thyself, and I with my prayers will obtain grace of Achilles to subdue his fury, whose parts are worth our entreaty, being chief check to our ill in war. All this good favour, said the king, is comely and good right. But this man breaks all such bounds. He affects past all men. Height! All would in his power hold. All make his subjects give to all. His hot will for temperate law, all which he never shall persuade at my hands. If the gods have given him the great style of ablest soldier, made they that his licence revile? Men revile language. Thetis' son prevented him, and said, fearful and vile I might be thought, if the exactions laid by all means on me I should bear. Ever's command to this, thou shalt not be, or if thou dost, far my free spirit is from serving thy command. Beside this, I afford impression of it in thy soul. I will not use my sword on thee or any for a wench. Unjustly, fool, thou tax'st the thing thou gav'st, but all things else it in my ship thou mak'st greedy survey of. Do not touch without my leave, or do add that act's wrong to this, that these may see the outrage too. And then comes my part. Then be sure thy blood upon my lance shall flow in vengeance. These high terms, these two at variance, used to each other, left their seats, and after them arose the whole court. To his tents and ships, with friends and soldiers goes angry Achilles. A truce son the swift ship launched, and put within it 20 chosen rowers. Within it likewise shut the hecatomb, to appease the god. Then caused to come aboard fair-cheeked Chrysis, for the chief, he if in whom Pallas poured her store of counsels. Ithacus aboard went last, and then the moist ways of the sea they sailed. And now the king of men bade all the host to sacrifice. They sacrificed, and cast the offal of all to the deeps. The angry god they graced with perfect hecatombs, some bulls, some goats, along the shore of the unfruitful sea, inflamed. To heaven the thick fumes bore, in rapt savours. Thus though all the politic king made shew respects to heaven, yet he himself all that time did pursue his own affections. The late jar in which he thundered threats against Achilles still he fed, and his affections' heats thus vented to Talthybius, and gave Eurybates heralds and ministers of trust to all his messages. Haste to Achilles' tent, where take Briseis' hand, and bring her beauties to us. If he fail to yield her, say your king will come himself with multitudes that shall be the horribler. Make both his presence in your charge, that so he dares defer. This said, he sent them with a charge of hard condition. They went unwillingly, and trod the fruitless sea shore. Soon they reached the navy and the tents in which the quarter lay of all the Myrmidons, and found the chief in their sway, set at his black bark in his tent. Nor was Achilles glad to see their presence, nor themselves in any glory had their message, but with reverence stood and feared the offended king. Asked not the dame, nor spake a word. He yet well knowing the thing that caused their coming, graced them thus: Herald ye men that bear the messages of God, men and gods, ye are welcome, come ye near. I nothing blame you but your king. 'Tis he I know doth send you for Bruce's. She is his. Patroclus, honoured friend, bring forth the damsel, and these men let lead her to their lord. But heralds, be you witnesses before the most adored, before us mortals, and before your most ungentle king, of what I suffer, that, if war ever hereafter bring made in question to avert any severest bane, it brings on others I am excused to keep mine aid in vain, since they mine honour. But your king intent in mischief raves, nor sees at once the present things, the future, how likes waves. Ills follow ills, injustices being never so secure in present times, but after plagues even then are seen as sure, which yet he sees not, and so soothes his present lust, which checked would check plagues future, and he might in succouring right protect such as fight for his right at fleet. They still in safety fight, that fight still justly. This speech as Patroclus did the right. His friend commanded, and brought forth Briseis from her tent, gave her the heralds, and away to the I.C.A ships they went. She sad and scarce for grief could go, her love all friends forsook, and wept for anger. To the shore of the old sea he betook himself alone, and casting forth upon the purple sea his wet eyes and his hands to heaven advancing, this sad plea made to his mother: Mother, since you brought me forth to breathe so short a life, Olympius had good right to bequeath my short life honour, yet that right he doth in no degree. But let Atrides do me shame, and force that prize from me. That all the Greeks gave. This with tears he uttered, and she heard, sat with her old sire in his deep silence till they appeared. Up from the grey sea like a cloud sate by his side, and said, Why weeps my son? What grieves thee? Speak, conceal not what hath laid such hard hand on thee. Let both know. He sighing like a storm, replied, Thou dost know. Why should I, things known again, inform? We marched to Thebes, the sacred town, and King Eetion sacked it, and brought to fleet the spoil which every valiant son of Greece indifferently shared. Atrides had for share fair-cheeked Chrysis, after which his priest that shoot so far Chrysis, the fair Chrysis' sire, arrived at the I.C.A fleet, with infinite ransom to redeem the dear imprisoned feet of his fair daughter. In his hands he held Apollo's crown and golden sceptre, making suit to every Grecan son. But most of the sons of Atreus, the others orderers, yet they least heard him. All the rest received with reverend ears the motion, both the priest in gifts gracing, and holding worth his wished acceptance. Atreus' son, yet vexed, commanded forth with rude terms Phoebus, reverend priest, who angry made retreat, and prayed to Phoebus, in whose grace he standing passing great, got his petition. The god an ill shaft sent abroad, that tumbled down the Greeks in heaps. The host had no abode, that was not visited. We asked a prophet that well knew the cause of all. From his lips Apollo's prophecies flew, telling his anger first, myself exhorted to appease the angered god, which Atreus' son did at the heart displease. And up he stood, his threats performed, the black-eyed Greek sent home Chrysis to her sire, and gave his god a hecatomb. Then for Briseis to my hence Atrides heralds came, and took her that the Greeks gave all, if then thy powers can frame. Wreak for thy son afford at scale Olympus, and implore Jove, if by either word or fact thou ever didst restore joy to his grieved heart. Now to help I oft have heard thee vaunt in court of Pelus, that alone thy hand was conversant in rescue with a cruel spoil, the black cloud gathering Jove, whom other godheads would have bound the power whose pace doth move the round earth heaven's great queen and palace, to whose bands thou camp'st with rescue, bringing up him with the 100 hands, the great Olympus, whom the gods call Briareus, men Aegeon, who his sire surpassed and was as strong again, and in that grey sack glad by the Jove, the immortal stood dismayed at his ascension, and gave free passage to his aid. Of all this tell Jove, kneel to him, embrace his knee, and pray, if Troy's aid he will ever deign, that now their forces may beat home the Greeks to fleet and sea, embrewing their retreat, in slaughter their pains paying the wreak of their proud sovereign's heat, and that far-ruling king may know from his poor soldiers' harms, his own harm falls, his own and all in mine, his best in arms. Her answer she poured out in tears. "O me, my son," she said, "O me, my son," said she, "why brought I up thy being at all, that brought thee forth to be such subject, oh, so hard a fate? O would to heaven that since the fate is little and not long, thou mightst without offence and tears perform it, but to live for us who so stern a fate as grant thee less a life, and that least so most unfortunate, grieves me to have given thee any life. But what thou wishest now, if Jove will grant, I'll up and ask, Olympus crowned with snow, I'll climb. But sit thou fast at fleet, renounce all war, and feed thy heart with wrath, and hope of wreak thou, which come thou shalt need a little patience. Jupiter went yesterday to feast amongst the blameless Ephiopus, in the ocean's deepened breast. All gods attending him, the 12th high heaven again he sees, and then his brass-paved court I'll scale, cling to his powerful knees, and doubt not but to win thy wish." Thus she made her remove, and left Rife tiring on her son for his enforced love. Ulysses with the hecatombs arrived at Chrysa's shore, and when amidst the haven's deep mouth they came to use the oar, they straight stuck sail, then rolled them up, and on the hatches threw the topmast to the kelson, then with halyards down they drew. They brought the ship to port with oars, then forked the anchor cast, and 'gainst the violence of storm, for drifting made her fast, all come ashore. They all exposed the holy hecatomb to angry Phoebus, and with it Chryses welcomed home, whom to her sire wise Ithacus, that did at the altar stand, for honour led, and speaking thus, resigned her to his hand. "Chryses, the mighty king of men, great Agamemnon sends, thou loved seed be my hands divine, and to thy God commends a hecatomb, which my charge is to sacrifice and seek. Our much sigh mixed woe his recure, invoked by every Greek." Thus he resigned her, and her sire received her highly joyed. About the well-built altar then they orderly employed the sacred offering, washed their hands, took salt cakes, and the priest, with hands held up to heaven, they prayed, "O thou that all things seest, thou Tor of Chrysa, whose fair hand doth guardfully dispose, Celestia Cilia, governing in all power Tenedos, O hear thy priest, and as thy hand in free grace to my prayers shot fervent plague shafts through the Greeks, now hearten their affairs, with health renewed, and quite remove the infection from their blood." He prayed, and to his prayers again the god proprietor stood. All after prayer cast on salt cakes, drew back, killed, flayed the beeves, cut out and dubbed with fat their thighs, fair dressed with doubled leaves, and on them all the sweet bread picked. The priest with small sewer wood did sacrifice, poured in red wine, by whom the young man stood. and turned in 5 rank spits on which the legs enough they eat, the inwards then in gigots cut, the other fit for meat, and put to fire, which roasted well they drew, the labour done they served the feast in, that fed all to satisfaction. Desire of meat and wine was quenched, the youths crown cups of wine, drunk off and filled again to all, that day was held divine, and spent in paeans to the sun, who heard with pleased ear, when whose bright chariot stood to sea, and twilight hid the clear. All soundly on the cable slept, even till the night was worn, and when the lady of the night, the rosy-fingered morn, rosy from the hills, all fresh arose, and to the camp retired, Apollo with a foreright wind their swelling bark inspired. The topmast hoisted, milk-white sails on his round breast they put, the mizzen stewarded gay with the gale, the ship her course did cut, so swiftly that the parted waves against her ribs did roar, which coming to the camp they drew aloft the sandy shore, where laid on stocks each soldier kept his quarter as before, but Peleus' sons left foot Achilles at his swift ship's state, burning in wrath, nor ever come to councils of estate, that make men honoured, never trod the fearsome battle-field, but kept close, and his loved heart pinned what fighting cries could yield, firsting at all parts to the host, and now since first he told his wrongs to Thetis, 12 fair morns their ensigns did unfold. And then the ever-living gods mounted Olympus Jove, first in ascension Thetis, then remembered well to move. Achilles' motion rose from the sea, and then the morn's first light, the great heaven and Olympus climbed were, in supremest height. Of all that many-headed hill, she saw far-seen son of Saturn set from all the rest in his free seat alone, before whom on her own knees fawned the knees of Jupiter. Her left hand held her right his chin, and thus she did prefer his son's petition, Father Jove, if ever I have stood aidful to thee in word or work, with this implored good, requite my aid, renown my son, since in so short a race, past others thou confin'st his life, an insolent disgrace is done him by the king of men, he forced him a prize, won with his sword, but thou, O Jove, that art most strong, most wise, honour my son, for my sake, had strength to the Trojan side, by his side's weakness is his want, and see Troy amplified in conquest, so much and so long till Greece may give again the glory reft him, and more illustrate the free reign of his wronged honour. Jove at this sate silent, not a word in the long space past him. Thetis still hung on his knee, implored the second time his help, and said, grant or deny my suit. Be free in what thou doest, and no, thou canst not sit thus mute, for fear of any. Speak, deny, that so I may be sure of all heaven's goddesses. 'Tis I that only must endure dishonour by thee, Jupiter, the great cloud-gatherer, grieved with thought of what a world of griefs this suit asked being achieved. Swelled, sighed, and answered, works of death thou urgest, O at this Juno will storm, and all my powers inflame with Cameltes. Ever she wrangles, charging me in ear of all the gods, that I am partial still, that I add the displeasing odds of my aid to the Ilians. Begone then, lest she see, leave thy request to my care. Yet that trust may hearten thee, with thy desires grant, and my power give it act to prove how vain her strife is. To thy prayer my eminent head shall move, which is the great sign of my will with all the immortal states, irrevocable, never fails, never without the rates of all powers else. When my head bows, all heads bow with it still, as with their first mover, and gives power to any work I will. he said, and his black eyebrows bent above his deathless head. The ambrosian curls flowed, great heaven shook, and both were severed, their counsels broken, to the death of Neptune's. The depth of Neptune's kingdom dived Thetis from heaven's height. Jove arose, and all the kings received, all rising on their thrones, their sire attending to his court. None sate when he arose, none delayed the furnishing his port, till he came near. All met with him, and brought him to his throne. Nor sate great Juno ignorant, when she beheld alone old Nereus' silver-footed seed with Jove that she had brought counsels to heaven, and straight her tongue had teeth in it that wrought the sharp invective. Who is that, thou craftiest counsellor of all the gods, that so apart some secret did implore? Ever apart from me, thou lov'st to counsel and decree things of more close trust than thou think'st are fit to part to me. Whatever thou determinest, I must ever be denied the knowledge of it, be thy will. To her speech thus replied the father both of men and gods: have never hoped to know my whole intentions, though my wife it fits not, nor would show well to thine own thoughts, but what fits thy woman's ear to hear. Woman nor man nor God shall know before it grace thine ear. Yet what apart from men and gods I please to know forbear to examine or inquire of that. She with the cow's fair eyes respected Juno this returned, austere king of the skies. What hast thou uttered? When did I before this time inquire, or sift thy counsels? Passing close you are still, your desire is served with such care, that I fear you can scarce vouch the deed that makes it public, being seduced by this old sea god's seed, that could so early use her knees, embracing thine. I doubt the late act of thy bowed head was the working out of some boon she asked, that her son thy partial hand would please. With plaguing avarice, wretch, said he, thy subtle jealousies are still exploring, my designs can never scape thine eyes, which yet thou never canst prevent. Thy curiosity makes thee less cared for at my hands, and horrible the end shall make thy humour, if it be thy suspects intend. What then? 'Tis my free will it should, to which let way be given. With silence curb your tongue in time, lest all the gods in heaven too few be, and too weak to help thy punished insolence. When my inaccessible hand shall fall on thee. The sense of this high threatening made her fear, and silent she sate down, humbling her great heart. All the gods in court of Jove did frown at this offence given, amongst whom heaven's famous artisan Hephaestus and his mother's care this comely speech began. Believe it, these words will breed wounds beyond our powers to bear. If thus for mortals ye fall out, ye make a tumult here, that spoils our banquet evermore, where matters put down best. But mother, though yourself be wise, yet let your son request his wisdom's audience. Give good terms to our loved father Jove, for fear he take offence again, and our kind banquet prove a wrathful battle. If he will, the heavenly light ne'er can take you and toss you from your throne. His power Olympian is so surpassing, soften them with gentle speech his spleen, and drink to him. I know his heart will quickly down again. This said, arising from his throne, in his loved mother's hand he put the double-handed cup, and said, come, do not stand on these cross humours, suffer, bear, though your great bosom grieve, and less blows force you, all my aid not able to relieve your hard condition. Though these eyes behold it, and this heart sorrow to think it, 'tis a task too dangerous to take part against Olympius. I myself the proof of this can still feel. Whenever gods would fain have helped, he took me by the heel, and hurled me out of heaven All day I was falling down. At length in Lemnos I struck earth, the likewise falling sun and I together set my life almost set to, yet there the Sinti teared and took me up. This did to laughter cheer white-wristed Juno, who now took the cup of him and smiled. The sweet peacemaking draught went round, and lame Hephaestus filled nectar to all the other gods. A laughter never left, shook all the blessed deities, to see the lame so deft. At that cup service, all that day, even till the sun went down, they banqueted and had such cheer as did their wishes crown. Nor had they music less divine. Apollo there did touch his most sweet harp, to which with voice the Muses pleased as much. But when the sun's fair light was set, each goddess to his house addressed for sleep, where every one with art most curious by heaven's great foot halting god of several roof had built, even he to sleep went by, whose hand heaven is with lightning gilt. High Jove, where he had us to rest, with sweet sleep seized his eyes. By him the golden throned queen slept, and queen of deities. End of the first book.